Who is the person that irritates you the most in the world? That person whose arrogance, whose laziness, whose weakness drives you into a state of irrational frustration. Take a moment. Bring their face to mind. Now, what if I told you that the face you are seeing is a mirror, and the intense emotion you feel towards them is not about them at all? This is one of the most confronting and liberating truths in all of psychology. We do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And the qualities that we most viciously condemn in other people are often the disowned, exiled parts of our own soul. The great psychologist Carl Jung called this powerful defense mechanism shadow projection. He taught that our psyche cannot tolerate a fragmented identity. When we deny a part of ourselves, our anger, our vulnerability, our hidden laziness, it does not disappear. The mind, in a brilliant act of self-preservation, projects that unwanted quality onto someone else. It finds a hook in the outside world to hang its shadow on, and then it attacks it. Today, we are going to explore this profound mechanism. This is not just a theory, it is a fundamental key to self-awareness. We will understand why our minds do this. We will learn to distinguish a simple judgment from a true, emotionally charged projection. And I will provide you with a powerful shadow work framework to begin using your triggers, not as reasons to blame others, but as a map back to yourself. The people who trigger you are not your enemies. They are your messengers. To begin the work of decoding their message, I invite you to make a courageous declaration. Write in the comments below, "I am ready to look in the mirror."
This experience of being intensely irritated by another person, it is a deeply human and often deeply confusing phenomenon. It feels so real, so justified. Their arrogance is infuriating. Their incompetence is maddening. Our emotional reaction feels like a logical and direct consequence of their behavior. But is it? Let's perform a small thought experiment. Imagine you are walking down the street, and a small child, no older than 5, bumps into you and spills their ice cream on your shoes. What is your reaction? Probably a fleeting moment of annoyance followed by compassion. You might help them clean up. You don't take it personally. Now, imagine an hour later, an adult in a business suit, looking at their phone, bumps into you and spills their coffee on those same shoes. What is your reaction now? For many of us, it is a surge of anger, judgment. Pay attention. How rude. The objective event is almost identical, but the emotional reaction is a universe apart. Why? Because the adult in the suit is a hook upon which we can hang all of our own unexamined feelings about arrogance, about entitlement, about being ignored. The child is not a hook. This is the beginning of understanding projection. It is not about the event. It is about the hook. Let's meet Maria. Maria is a 40-year-old nurse, a single mother of 2. She prides herself on her work ethic. She is the first to arrive at the hospital, the last to leave. She picks up extra shifts. She covers for her colleagues. She never complains. Her identity is built on being the responsible one, the hard worker. But there is one person at work who drives her into a silent, simmering rage. A fellow nurse named Paul. Paul is not a bad nurse. He is competent. But Paul leaves at 5 p.m. on the dot every day. He politely declines extra shifts, stating he has family commitments. He takes his full lunch break, and Maria despises him for it. In her mind, he is lazy, selfish, not a team player. Her judgment of him is swift and absolute. She finds herself complaining about him to other nurses, her voice filled with a righteous indignation. This is not a simple workplace disagreement. This is a full-blown shadow projection. And the intensity of Maria's reaction is the key. Maria is not actually angry at Paul for leaving on time. She is unconsciously furious at herself for never allowing herself the same permission. Paul, in his simple, guilt-free act of setting boundaries, has become a perfect blank screen for Maria to project her own exiled shadow self. The part of her that is exhausted, the part that longs to go home to her own children, the part that is desperate for rest but has been labeled lazy and selfish by her own harsh inner critic. She cannot own this longing in herself. To do so would threaten her entire identity as the hard worker. So her psyche performs a brilliant unconscious maneuver. It takes her own disowned desire for rest, her own exile laziness, and it projects it onto Paul. It is safer to hate the laziness in him than to acknowledge the exhaustion in herself. Her intense judgment of Paul is a defense mechanism. It is a way to keep her own shadow locked away by attacking it whenever she sees it walking around in the world wearing someone else's face. This is a profound and often difficult truth to swallow. The people who trigger us the most are often our shadow twins. They are the ones who are living out a quality that we have repressed in ourselves. If you have a violent reaction to someone's perceived arrogance, it may be because your own shadow holds a disowned longing to be more confident and take up more space. If you are endlessly frustrated by a friend's perceived victimhood, it may be because you have exiled your own vulnerability and need for help into your shadow. This is one of the most important principles in the shadow work of Carl Jung. He taught that the shadow, when it remains unconscious, is always projected. We cannot see what is in our own basement, so we see it in our neighbor's house. And we spend our lives trying to fix our neighbor's house instead of doing the courageous work of turning on the light in our own. The first step in this work is not to stop judging others. That is impossible. The first step is to become curious about the energy behind your judgment. To notice when a simple observation, like Paul left at 5 p.m., becomes a highly emotional condemnation, like Paul is a selfish, lazy person and I can't stand him. That emotional charge, that is the fingerprint of the shadow. It is the X on the treasure map showing you exactly where to dig. Not in their character, but in your own.
To understand why we project is to understand the very architecture of the human ego. The ego, your conscious sense of self, has one primary job: to maintain a stable and consistent identity. It needs to believe in a story, the story of who I am. I am a kind person. I am a hard worker. I am an honest man. But the truth is, we are all far more complex than these simple stories. Within every one of us, as Carl Jung so brilliantly illuminated, there exists a vast, chaotic, and contradictory landscape of potentials. The kind person also has a capacity for cruelty. The hard worker also has a deep longing for rest. The honest man also has a flicker of deceit. These contradictory aspects are what make up the shadow. The ego, in its desperate need for a consistent story, finds these contradictions terrifying. It cannot hold the paradox. It cannot be both a hard worker and a person who longs to be lazy. So, to protect its own story, it performs a three-step psychological maneuver, a process that is as brilliant as it is destructive. This is the anatomy of a shadow projection. Step 1. Denial
and disidentification. The first step is a simple, powerful declaration of "not me." Maria, our nurse, looks at her own deep exhaustion, her desire to go home, to do nothing, and her ego says, "That is not me. That is laziness. I am not lazy. I am a hard worker." This is a crucial act of self-definition. To maintain her identity as a hard worker, she must deny and disidentify with the part of her that is not. She takes this unwanted quality, this laziness, and she throws it out of the castle of her conscious identity. Step 2. Exile to the shadow. But where does it go? This disowned quality does not simply vanish. As we've discussed, it is exiled to the unconscious, to the vast, dark territory of the shadow. It becomes a piece of psychic energy, a ghost that now lives within her, but outside of her conscious awareness. It is still her exhaustion, it is still her longing, but she can no longer see it as her own. It is now a faceless, nameless energy charged with the shame of its own rejection. This is the heart of a deep shadow work practice. Understanding that your shadow is made up of the parts of you that you yourself have rejected. And this leads to the third and most critical step. Step 3. Projection onto a hook. This exiled energy cannot remain dormant forever. It wants to be seen. It wants to be integrated. So, the psyche, in its genius, finds a way to see it, not in itself, but in the outside world. It scans the environment, looking for a hook, a person who exhibits even a small amount of the exiled quality, and then it projects the entire supercharged, disowned energy onto that person. Paul, the nurse who leaves on time, is not objectively lazy. He is simply a man with good boundaries. But his behavior is a perfect hook for Maria's disowned laziness. So her psyche takes the entire, immense, shame-filled energy of her own longing for rest, and it hangs it all on Paul. Her intense, visceral reaction is not about his 30 minutes of extra break time. It is about her 30 years of unmet exhaustion. She is not seeing him. She is seeing her own shadow wearing his face. This is why a projection feels so different from a simple observation. An observation is a cool, detached assessment. Paul's behavior is different from mine. A projection is a hot, emotionally charged condemnation. Paul's behavior is wrong and it makes me furious. That emotional charge is the telltale sign that your own shadow has just entered the room. It is the energy of your own disowned part, now seen and judged in someone else. The great tragedy and irony, as Carl Jung pointed out, is that the very people we judge the most harshly are the ones who hold the key to our own wholeness. They are the messengers sent by our own soul to show us the parts of ourselves we have left behind. Maria's intense irritation with Paul is not a sign that he is the problem. It is a sign that he is the teacher. He is the living embodiment of a quality, guilt-free rest that her own soul is starving for. If she could learn to see her reaction not as a judgment of him, but as a compass pointing back to herself, her entire world would change. She could begin to ask the real questions, not "why is he so lazy?" but "what is it about his freedom that is so threatening to my own lack of it? What part of me is crying out for the very permission he so easily gives himself?" This is the beginning of reclaiming the projection. It is the courageous act of taking your own movie off of your partner's screen. It is the moment you stop trying to fix them and start the real work of healing you. It is the most advanced and most rewarding form of shadow work there is, because it is the path that leads not just to self-awareness, but to true compassion for others. When you have done the work of embracing your own inner lazy person, your own inner coward, your own inner fool, you are no longer so threatened when you see them in the world. You can meet them with a quiet, knowing, and compassionate understanding.
To see your projection is to stand at a threshold. You can continue to look outward, to blame the mirror for the reflection it shows you. Or you can do the brave thing. You can turn inward. You can begin the sacred work of reclaiming your own shadow. This work is not about becoming a perfect person who never judges anyone. That is a fantasy of the ego. This work is about becoming a conscious person who knows how to use their judgments as a tool for their own evolution. It is the art of psychological alchemy, and like any art, it requires a practice. I want to guide you now through a 3-step journaling practice to begin this work. This is a foundational technique in the tradition of Carl Jung. It is a way to catch your projections in the act and to mine them for the gold they contain. We will call it the trigger inventory. The next time you feel that intense, emotionally charged reaction to someone, that is your cue. Do not waste the energy of that trigger on gossip or complaint. Channel it. Use it. Find your journal. This is your alchemical laboratory. Step 1. Identify the trigger and the judgment. On the top of the page, write the name of the person who triggered you. Beside their name, write down the specific, harsh judgment you have made about them. Be brutally honest. No one will see this but you. For Maria, our nurse, this would be, Paul. He is lazy, selfish, and entitled. This step is about making the unconscious projection conscious. You are taking the hot, messy energy of your reaction and giving it a cold, clear form on the page. Step 2. Own the opposite and the pride. Now, beneath that, I want you to explore your own relationship to this judgment. Ask yourself this question. In what way am I the exact opposite of this quality? And what is the secret pride I'd take in being this opposite? Maria would write, I am the opposite of lazy. I am hardworking, responsible, and a team player. Her secret pride is, I am the one who sacrifices. I am the one who can be counted on. My worth comes from my tireless effort. This step is crucial. It reveals the part of your identity, your ego, that is being threatened by the projected quality. Maria's identity is so deeply invested in being a hard worker that Paul's laziness feels like a personal attack on her very sense of self. And now, for the third and most transformative step, the heart of the shadow work. Step 3. Find the hidden gold. You are now going to perform a radical act of imagination. I want you to look at the negative quality you projected and ask this question. What is the hidden gift, the hidden medicine, or the hidden wisdom in this quality that I have so harshly judged? If this quality were a teacher, what would it be trying to teach me? This requires a profound shift from judgment to curiosity. Maria looks at the word lazy. For her whole life, this word has been a source of shame, a quality to be avoided at all costs. But now she asks, what is the gold in laziness? She lets herself brainstorm. The wisdom in laziness could be the ability to rest without guilt, the wisdom of knowing one's own limits, the courage to prioritize one's own well-being over the approval of others,
the understanding that our worth is not measured by our productivity, the freedom to simply be. This is the moment of alchemy, the moment the lead begins to shimmer with gold. Maria realizes with a shock that every one of these qualities is something her own soul is starving for. She has not been judging Paul. She has been judging her own deep, unmet, and disowned need for rest and self-compassion. Her trigger was not a weapon. It was a compass, and it was pointing directly to the driest, most neglected part of her own inner landscape. This three-step process is a powerful tool you can use for any projection. The person whose arrogance triggers you? What is the gold in arrogance? Perhaps it is the medicine of unapologetic self-confidence, the part of you that is afraid to take up space. The person whose victimhood drives you mad? What is the gold in victimhood? Perhaps it is the medicine of vulnerability, the part of you that is terrified to admit that you need help. This is the radical path that Carl Jung illuminated. The world is a grand and mysterious mirror, and the people who irritate us the most are not our enemies. They are our most challenging and therefore our most valuable spiritual teachers. They show us the splinter in our own eye. They show us the parts of ourselves we have sent into exile, and they show us with perfect, painful accuracy where our most important work is to be done, the work of coming home to our whole and complete self.
Today, we have looked into the haunted mirror of the human psyche. We have dared to ask the most confronting question of all. Is the monster I see out there a reflection of a part of me? We began by exploring the strange, emotionally charged phenomenon of our triggers. Through the story of Maria and her colleague Paul, we saw how a simple observation can be hijacked by the ghosts of our past, transforming a person into a screen for our projections. Then, we journeyed into the brilliant mind of Carl Jung to dissect the anatomy of a shadow projection. We learned the three-step process, the denial of an unwanted quality, its exile into the shadow, and its eventual projection onto an unsuspecting hook in the outside world. We understood that this is not a flaw in our wiring, but a sophisticated defense mechanism designed to protect the fragile ego. And finally, we transformed this psychological theory into a practical alchemical art. Through the three steps of the trigger inventory, identifying the judgment, owning the opposite, and finding the hidden gold, we discovered a powerful shadow work practice. A practice that turns our triggers from painful annoyances into sacred messengers. The world is full of mirrors. Every person you meet, especially those who irritate you, is offering you a gift, the gift of self-knowledge. The path to a peaceful life is not to find a world with no irritating people. That is an impossible fantasy. The path is to do the inner work of integrating your own shadow, so that there are fewer and fewer things left inside of you that can be triggered. As you embrace your own capacity for laziness, you will no longer be enraged by it in others. As you make peace with your own vulnerability, you will no longer be repulsed by it in others. As you own your own desire for power, you will no longer be so threatened by it in others. This is the ultimate promise of shadow work. It does not just heal you, it heals the way you see the world. And in healing your vision, you heal your relationships, your career, your entire experience of being alive. You stop being a victim of your own reactions. You become a conscious, compassionate observer of the great human drama, both within and without. But what happens when we do this work? What is the ultimate result of turning towards the darkness, of embracing the disowned parts of ourselves, of integrating our shadow? Carl Jung believed that the shadow does not just hold our flaws, it also holds our power, our raw, untamed, authentic power. The very strength and vitality we have been searching for outside ourselves has been locked away in the very basement we have been too afraid to enter. How do we unlock this hidden treasure? How does confronting our darkness lead to our greatest light? What is the shadow's secret to a life of authentic, unshakable power? That is the deep, empowering, and essential quest we will embark on in our next conversation as we uncover your shadow's secret to authentic power. For now, your invitation is to begin this work of seeing clearly. It is a commitment to look beyond the surface and to have the courage to meet yourself. To make this commitment real, I invite you to share a courageous insight in the comments below. You do not need to name names or share stories. Simply answer this question. What is the hidden gold your biggest trigger might be offering you? Is it rest, confidence, freedom, vulnerability? By naming the gold, you begin the process of reclaiming it. You take the first step out of the courtroom of judgment and into the alchemical laboratory of your own soul. The teachers are all around you. The lessons are waiting.